All right. Hello, I'm Bryan Gmyrek, and this is a talk entitled Poking Perl with a Stick. And it's about, obviously, debugging Perl and some tricks that I've learned recently that make that a little bit easier. All right, so who am I? Some of you already know me, some of you might not. So I'm an ex-particle physicist who somehow learned Perl by mistake while I was in grad school. I don't know how that happens still, but anyway, nowadays I don't do any physics really, but I write a lot of languages. And I think The Jerk was the funniest movie ever. Why did I write this talk? Well, Doug needed something more Perlish than a tap dancing frog, so I said I'd do this. And I might not be a tap dancing frog, but I've learned some tricks here. Let me see, I got one here. Oh, look at that. It lights up when I talk. It lights up when I hit it. I don't know, I got this for free at a Perl conference, so. You have to have tricks, so anyway. All right. So one of the reasons that I wrote this was I started, programming Perl, you probably do, what I usually do is, you have print statements and you're running these complicated server programs and all these things are happening, and a lot of times things don't even run properly on your local box. So you're doing a lot of printing to log files and sorting through log files and all that. But I started doing some other projects, like some mobile app stuff and some C++ programs where I was using like Xcode, and I got used to some of the really cool debugger features that you probably used in some of those nice GUIs where you feel almost a little bit guilty that it's so easy to see what's happening. So I decided why can't I do that with Perl, And the standard Perl debugger is really good, but it's also has its own learning curve, and it's text-based, which is great when you're used to that sort of thing, but even then it gets frustrating because you have to type all these commands to see what's going on, and so I wanted to try some different things. And when I started doing this, I realized that debugging can be fun like a game, It can be you're just you got a GUI, you're clicking stuff, you're like, hey, what's happening there, what's happening there? So, and I found out that, when it's fun like that, I'm more likely to actually dig in and find out what's going on. So, yeah, basically, like I said, debugger should make your life easier. Whereas sometimes the text-based debugger can make your life harder because you're trying to learn that at the same time as you're trying to debug your program, and it gets really frustrating. So even though it's Perl, I figured we can have nice things, and that's when I went searching for. So enter the dragon, but not that dragon, the Komodo dragon. So has anybody used Komodo? It's your IDE, a couple people? Yeah, a little. Well, you don't have to change your religion or editor. Basically interchangeable terms there. I already did that once this century, and that's enough. I started using Sublime Text. It's dramatic, but good. And what I do is I just use it for my debugging. So I'll have Sublime Text open, which is actually kind of nice because then I'm not getting jumped around by the debugger into different places. I've got my editor open where I wanted it, and then Komodo is, different things are happening for the debugging. So, it offers a nice GUI debugger for probably all kinds of languages, but I've only used it for Perl. All right, so the setup of it is pretty easy. You just say project, new project, and open. You'll create a new project, which is at the root directory of your file. And this is for local debugging. I was going to go through that first and then get to the fun remote debugging thing. You'll open the file you want to run, and then debug, go, continue. And I wish it were that easy, but it might be that easy. But if you're like me, where you use Perl Brew and you have different directories with different libraries, and I want to make sure I use this version of these modules and stuff. So you can configure all that. They've got everything you can think of. There's an environment tab, so when you go, I'll just open it up here. This is going to be, hopefully I don't completely fall on my face here. I'm going to actually try and do some interactive stuff. Oh no, I've already failed. Yeah, hold on. No, I've already failed. Here we go. All right. All right. Debug stop. Was already debugging something else. Okay, here we go. So this, like I was saying, you have these options here, and you can put in like whatever you'd normally put for your script arguments here. So this just be like what will go after a command on the command line. And if you want it to run as if it was in a certain directory, you can just put that directory here. So, and then you got this environment tab, and this is where it comes in handy when you're using Perl brew and you're using like a lot of times I'll have multiple copies of my own modules in different directories, and I want to make sure those get included, not the global ones or something. So you can, they show you what the defaults are, and then you can change them here. You can change your profile lib to make sure you include stuff. And there you go. So I have that, it just starts up every time that I run it, which is a little annoying, but that way I don't forget, you know, that you can, I think you can tell it to go away, but it's nice to have it when you need it. Okay. So that was basically it for that. All right, so debugging basics. Again, this is all stuff that you can do from the command line Perl debugger, but it's just maybe a little bit easier to do it from here. So as I start and stop, I guess are pretty self-explanatory. Like over here, actually instead of doing debug go continue, you can actually click the play button over here. So it's just like a video game, play. All right, yeah. So I have a breakpoint there. That's why it stopped instead of just running through. And I put another breakpoint here. You just add breakpoints by like, you know, clicking, or you can have it kind of remember where they are or just get rid of them. So there's a, let me see, where did I, okay. All right, so I'll show like one of the things is step over. So maybe that's, if I step over this line, well, it normally would have stepped right over it, but I have debug statements in there. So it kept going until it hit another breakpoint, I mean. So here, let's try this line. We'll step over it. Step over. Oh, here we go. You get the idea. Basically steps, but if you were on a function call and you step over, it won't step into the function. It'll just step right over that line, unless you have a breakpoint inside the function you're trying to step over, then it will. Yeah, which is what's happening to me here. So let me see. Let's keep going. All right. Let me see. So those are the basic command. Oh yeah, here we go. Here's another one I wanted to show. Step out of. So if I step outside the current function or whatever, it'll get rid of this here. Well, the idea is that then I'll step out of the function I'm in. But I have all these breakpoints, so it makes it work. Makes it kind of funky. Yes. Let me see. Let me turn them off. Oh, but I wanted to leave some of them on for later. Well, you get the idea. I think for, here we go. That's one thing is you can see all your breakpoints over here. And then but then it's, you got to remember to go back to the view, your debug view, so you can see your variables and stuff. Okay. Step into, step over, step out. I think I covered what they mean, even if I messed it up. And then here you go. You can, there's a fast forward button, which is kind of cool. So you can, you can just, it skips all the breakpoints and finishes what it was doing. Okay, so let me see. All right, so I guess I already covered how to set breakpoints. You just click the left of the line, can view all of them. I covered that. Okay, here's one, finding gold with DB single. So stepping through the program is helpful, you know, and actually I think, like reading code can be really boring. And so sometimes if I'm trying to learn something, especially if it's like spaghetti code, it's really well written code and all modularized perfectly. Sometimes you can just read it. But especially if it's code that's kind of hard to understand what's happening, it can be, even if when you're not trying to debug something, it can be a good way to learn, like, hey, what's happening? I'm just going to run this program, keep stepping through it, and I'll get to see like all the important parts it goes to and stuff. So, but anyway, this is my point here was, has anybody heard of DB single? Would you use this? Yeah, it's cool. It's like Perl's little, you know, with the Komodo debugger, you can do a lot of stuff, but this is like Perl's little extra debugging hack, and I have an example of it here. So you can actually, if you add this db single equals 1 to any line in a Perl program, it will, when execution hits that line, it will tell the debugger to stop. So the Perl debugger module or whatever has different modes, and I don't really understand how it works, but it doesn't matter because, hold on. You okay? All right. People are breaking things. I'm going to have to run off the stage soon. Oh, okay. All right, good. As long as they don't throw wrenches, it's fine. All right. So, okay. All right, okay. So one thing I forgot to mention, I'm actually used the program that I keep showing you, this presentation builder thing. This is what I gave a talk on last time, and I figured why write new code when I can just reuse the code that I gave a talk on last time. So anyway, I'm using this, and then, let me see, here we go. These are my slides. They're all in, it's a YAML file, and the talk gets generated from that. Where is it? Oh no, okay, let's search for that. This is how I find stuff. There we go. All right, so I put in a bug just to give an idea, because this actually happened to me. But I went in and changed it because I wanted to know where it would be. So anyway, I put in a little bug where, you know, what I'm really supposed to, well, I'll show you. But, oh no, is what happened below. So as you can see, I wanted to say, ha ha ha, fail, you know, but what it's actually saying is hash, memory address. Oh my God, something horrible happened, right? So, you know, you can use the debugger based on knowing a little bit about the code. I mean, you could always, of course, step through this until it got here. But I knew enough about the code to know that that would be happening when it was building the slide section. So I have this split out in presentation builder slide section. And then, where'd it go? Here we go. So I knew that I wanted to see what's happening like on around this line. But I didn't, every single time there was a slide section, it would stop. So you'd be like, it gets really boring, right? So with DB single, you can go in here and you can have arbitrary Perl code that you use to tell the debugger like when to stop. So I knew that the issue there had to be that one of these points that's supposed to be a text bullet point was actually a hash reference. So I added this code in here. If it's a hash reference, then stop. So let's see if this actually works. Probably won't. Let's see. No, okay. This is something that will happen to you. So when you debug, you'll want to hit like debug go. I'm ready to keep going. But the problem is you'll be looking at one of your modules, and it'll just go ahead and try and debug the module, but it can't just run the module. So this will happen where it pops up, and you'll notice that you don't have your normal settings. So you say, oops, I didn't mean to do that. I need to go back to the profile. Then I can debug it. There might be some way to like tell it that you always mean the profile. I don't know. I never bothered to figure that out. But here we go. And I guess I could disable all my breakpoints so that I don't keep stopping everywhere else. Why did I stop there? Oh, did I leave that one there? Okay. There we go. Ah, okay. So it stopped. It you know, I have it. I want it to stop here, but I think it doesn't stop there until there, because it sets the debug mode to stop here, and then it doesn't get executed, I guess, until it gets to the next line. But anyway, it's what I wanted. So now you can see, kind of skipped over one of the coolest things, but now you get to see. The cool thing is, in a large program, you'll usually see a lot more down in your variable section here. And this is what's really cool, because I don't know how many times I've dumped like a huge self object or something just because I'm like, I want to see like what's happening. There's so much code in here, I can't figure out what's in self. And I'd really like to know, and this way you get this nice little collapsible view of all the things, and you can even see globals. You can see the ISA array and like all this stuff. So it's cool. It's like X-ray vision. And again, you can do this in the text debugger, but it's not nearly as nice. And you get huge things when you try to dump self-objects of, in real programs. But anyway, you can see what happened here. This got turned into, I wanted it to just be text, but because I have a colon in there and I didn't quote this, it fails. So if I go in here and quote it, it shouldn't do this again. So let me just fast forward this. I'll try it. I don't know what's happening. Hey, okay, so presumably it worked that time. So I'm gonna undo that now, so I don't forget. Okay, so there was that. Hopefully it gives you some idea. It can be one way. And let me see, this is basically the same thing that I just showed you, but I put it in the talk because I like to put stuff in there, or else sometimes I forget. Sometimes I do it like 3 slides ahead, but at least it's there if someone wants to read the talk or something. Squirrel. Yeah, squirrel. Like, oh, what's that? Yeah. That's shiny. Let's go write some other languages. Yeah, so, and by the way, I have a link to this is up on this GitHub repo, presentation builder. Physics Dude is my GitHub name. I don't have all that much stuff up there, but I have some, and that's a link to it as well there. But let me see. And if you ever wanted to look at the slides, I think I have them. Yeah, if you were to like clone this or download it, it should be in this file. If you just open this nov14.html file in your browser, you would see the talk. So there you go. Okay. So there you go. So I don't know if there are like complicated ways to do what I just showed you, like with logic stopping at a certain point using stuff in the debugger or something, but it doesn't matter. You don't need to know it. So you already know Perl, and you could just use that to do that. This is the same thing I just showed you. Okay. All right, here we go. Sonic. I had to get Sonic in there somehow. So I know you're thinking, I promised to show you remote debugging, which is like the real magic trick here, but I'm getting to that, so calm down. And part of the reason why I showed you the local is that it is a little bit, the first time you set it up, it's painful. And then after that, there's a little bit of work like on each new box you wanted to do it on, but it's not really that bad. They've got Komodo, has a pretty good description, although it's kind of like long in the tooth. Part of why I wanted to give the talk is I think a lot of people will look at their description of how to do this and they'll go, this is never going to work. That's what I think when I look at this sort of thing. It goes, hey, you could do like remote debugging. It's great. And then you see this list of instructions that looks like Linus Torvalds threw up or something. And you're like, you're like, this is never going to work. Somebody can get this to work, but I'm not going to get it to work. So I wanted to show you guys that you follow those steps, like it actually works. So and it works pretty well. Like once I set it up, I don't even think about it anymore. So let's see. Okay, so the way I did it, which is basically what the instructions there say. The short version is you just go on your remote machine, make a Komodo directory. You can call it whatever you want, but for the purposes here, I called it Komodo. And then, depending on your operating system, you're going to have, I guess with every Komodo code installation, they include these files. So there should be some directory like Komodo IDE, content shared support, Perl lib. And if you just search your file system for, I forget which file it is, but anyway, you can find it. And I think they tell you about where to find it on here. But that's one thing you have to look up, or you just need to look for, here, let's see. All right, so if you just search for like perl5db.pl on your machine and you have Komodo installed, you should find it. You know, if it's been indexed or whatever. But so wherever that is, and I think you can actually even download it from Komodo's site. I think they have some downloads for it. But just get a hold of that, and you need to put it in. I just rsynced it here from where it was on my local machine into the remote directory. I don't know if this is exactly how they said to do it, but they basically said, you know, make sure you export these environment variables like perl5 db ops, perl5 db, all this stuff. You basically do what they say there, and that what I did was I didn't want it necessarily always running. So if I'm SSH in and I want to do normal debugging without any kind of remote stuff coming up, I can just use it. Then once I run this alias, and then when I want to debug, it'll, you know, all those environment variables will be set and everything. And I guess I didn't make anything to clear it, but you know what I mean? You know, just open a new terminal session or something to get my clean environment back. But anyway, basically it just tells it, it gives all these things, all these options for it. And then I set up a little alias because I'm really lazy, just perl d. So I can just type that. It runs the little bash function. So this goes in your bash RC. And that way when I'm on the command line and I run this perl d, it'll run this function, and then it'll run perl-d, and magic will happen, hopefully. On your local machine, it doesn't come, like obviously maybe Komodo doesn't come turned on listening for these connections or whatever, because not everybody is going to use this. So you just have to tell it to listen, that part's pretty easy. You just go here and say debug, listen for debugging connections. And then you can, I forget what happened when I first set it up. I think it picks a random port, a random free port from your system. So it probably picks a random number and then checks if the port is free. And if it is, it uses that. If not, it uses something else. But anyway, in my system, again, I don't know if this is standard or not, but it's host port 58657. So you just want to make sure that whatever you set up in all those little things I showed you match that port. So your mileage is going to vary, I guess. And if it picked a port that you don't like, you can change it. All right, and then the next part of the magic is SSH port forwarding. Has anybody messed with that? That's fun whenever you want to do something exactly like this. Yeah, I mean, it's not like, again, it's one of those things that doesn't matter how it works. It just works. It's just magic, you know. It's like using Git or something. You're like, I don't know why it's making this command do all these things, but so, you know, you don't have to, like, whatever. You just have to run it. And what this will do is it tunnels traffic to that port over your SSH connection from your remote box to your local machine. And then Komodo's listening on that port, and that's when it can do its Komodo dragon stuff. Okay. Oh yeah, it makes me think of those cool old tin can things that we used to make. Again, and what I did was I made a local alias, and you might I'll have a different one for different boxes or whatever. But you know that when an alias, so I can just run it, and then it'll SSH me in with the port open and everything. I don't have to think about it. Start the program with the perl d alias. Okay, so I was just saying what I said before. Okay, now it's time to profit or debug. Okay, so what should happen, and we'll see if it happens when I run it now, but what should happen is all the remote, the cool thing is you don't have to do anything like, you know, you've got all this code running remotely, including your source code that you're writing, and then the Perl library code that's God knows where on that system, you know, it's somewhere, and then all that stuff's running. And the cool thing about it is that you don't have to copy any of that over. It all happens through the port. And so you'll see. If it works, you'll see. Right. Yeah. So whenever it's cool. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what all they did, but they did a pretty good job. Right. Right. And there is some way... and when I was reading it, and I was like, I don't know, that it almost seems like a bad idea. There is some way to tell it that you have local directories that mirror the remote ones, and I think that speeds it up if it knows to look there. But then you got to worry about like, yeah, what if yours isn't exactly a mirror, and now what happens? You're like debugging some line that's not even the right line. I don't know. So I didn't even read about that and said, yeah, I'm just not going to do that. But I think you can, and sometimes that could work because sometimes I do have like an exact mirror locally, or a lot of times. But okay, so this command is kind of like convoluted looking, but I just have have you guys heard of Mojolicious? Yeah, so this is just an example of if you haven't heard of it, it's pretty cool. I mean, Mojolicious. Yee, this is rainbows and unicorns. It's pretty awesome. I mean, it's really like it's cool because it's, like I say, it's like a next generation web framework. Of course, it's years old now, so it's like ancient, but it doesn't look ancient because it has rainbows. But it's really cool because we all know about all this stuff like Node and like Ruby on Rails and like all whatever. And this isn't a mirror, really, a copy or whatever, any of those. But it's like maybe one of the few things in Perl that is in that spirit of extremely easy to use, like tools to do web development and stuff in. And it has routes and has a lot of the stuff that people are used to in some of these other things. And you can install it like really easily. So with like a one-liner like this, I think he even had a faster one. But anyway, you can install it with one line. You don't have to be the administrator. And it comes, they have this philosophy, which is like, it's kind of controversial because they don't use any other Perl modules. It's a little controversial because people say that they're like anti-CPAN, which I'm anti-CPAN. CPAN's good, right? But their argument is it's supposed to be like this one-stop shop, easy to use, and you get a lot of the stuff is pretty well written. You get like tons of features with it. So it's something's fun to try. I've even used their base. They have a Mojo base thing, which they claim is like super optimized as a base class. And I've used it as a base class to do something else. And it was fun. It gave me some cool methods without a lot of like overhead. So it's something to play with. I don't know. Anyway, this doesn't really do much at all. It's just like an example. Let me see. Okay, this is it. Well, which is one of the things that the selling points is. All I do is I use this Mojolicious Lite. I have a log file set up. I just set up a path. So if I call test on this, if I call the test URL, all it's going to do is really return OK and log that something happened. I mean, it's really dumb. But you'll notice I put in a little db single equals 1 there. So anyway, I'll run this, see if it works. So let me just stop. I don't think I'm debugging. Okay, it stopped. I put a little reminder in there for myself as well in that Komodo bash function. It just reminds me that have I SSH in the wrong way because I'm really extremely lazy. And like, I'll start going, why isn't it working? It's like, oh yeah, reminded myself from like a year ago. Let's see if anything's happening. Please, something happen. Oh yes, yay. So now you see before I had debug no 14.pl or whatever, but now it's debugging Morbo, which is the Mojolicious thing that runs web stuff. So so here you go, we're inside there. So that code's not on my machine at all, but it's sent the code across the port so I can see it. And it's put me at its current line. So let me see. So it's kind of fun too, because now I can, like if I want to get a better idea of how like Mojolicious works. Let me see. Oh yeah, here we go. Now I'm like looking wherever morbo.pm is. That's that's not code I wrote. That's part of the Mojolicious thing. Wherever that is on the remote machine, it's taken it and copied it over here. And now I can see like, which is kind of cool because as I was stepping through this, I don't know where it was. found something cool. See if I can find it again. Another thing I like is if you just saw it turns, stuff will turn red on the bottom when it like changes. See if it gets out. I guess it doesn't always turn red. It turns red when it changes, which is cool. It just pops up when it's new, I guess. Anyway, okay. I'm going to stop that so I can start it again. Okay. All right, so we're going to start it. Okay, here we go. And then this, it's hard to see because they have so many things down here, but your Komodo dragon will start jumping up and down when it, you know, so just, yeah, if you're on a Mac, it will. Yeah, otherwise it'll just burp or whatever things do on Windows. But, so I'm going to see if I can, let me see. I'm going to get down to here. Let's see what happens. Get it to run to there. Okay. I actually try to step into let's see what happens here. Oh, that's good. So it's listening now. You see, before I refreshed and nothing happened. So now it's listening. And, oh yeah, there we go. Ha! It stopped in my DB single line. So this is like obviously a really contrived example, but had this been a real program, you know, maybe this is something that happens, you know, at some point when people, you know, you'd obviously want to set up on a test server, but you could theoretically put in your little debug, your single thing wherever, and then start using the site like people usually are when something happens and find it. So here we go. Let's see. I'm here. I'm going to step a couple times to where it's supposed to post the text. See if it works. Please work. Ah! Here we go. It says okay, which is what it normally would just do, but I put in all the breakpoints and stuff just to show how you can be stepping through. So there you go. Yes. Okay. All right. There are some gotchas. Obviously, it's slower and stuff, and you don't have as much control over your environment. So again, it's always preferable to write local tests and run things locally and where you have like some controlled environment. But you can't always do that, and sometimes you want to see like what's going on in them. You know, this might be maybe you while you're stepping through or something, you find out it's using a different version of some library and you didn't realize that, and you notice it when you're stepping through. So sometimes you just have to run it on the remote box. The most annoying thing is that breakpoints can like disappear. Obviously, that's one thing that's nice about the DB single. It's really explicit that you want to stop there. I've just noticed something weird where you can, I won't try to reproduce it right now, but you know, you'll set a breakpoint and then maybe I believe Komodo saves all the information about your breakpoints and stuff in your Komodo project file, which you created when you started it up. And it'll remember that there's a breakpoint there, so the breakpoint would show up over here, but it won't show the stop sign in the code. And so, and I think that might happen, you know, when you so it can be really annoying because it stops somewhere, and you're like, you know, you forgot that you put that breakpoint there, and you're like, why did that stop? And another thing that's a little bit annoying is that all your breakpoints from all your projects show up over here. So anyway, you know, maybe good practice. I think they have like the delete all breakpoints thing. So maybe when you're done, you can delete them all and then add them back later or something. But it can be frustrating when you forgot that a week ago you set a breakpoint somewhere. You're like running it in. But it's not that big a deal. It's just once you see it once. And this is my promised random musings slide. I'll let that just sink in with you guys. But yeah, that's it. That's my talk.
is supposed to work with that Komodo. If you set up that, copy that file over, there's a Vim module that's actually supposed to work with that.
Oh, cool.
Because it actually uses, I forgot, when you research this, did you see the protocol? There's actually a remote debugging protocol.
Oh, really?
That this is used.
Yeah, I figured there's got to be something.
It's, for some reason, it doesn't seem like it's that popular or
Mm.
well known.
Yeah.
But I did actually get this running once. in
Nice.
Vim.
Nice.
And I can't remember. I just got out of the habit, or I didn't need it for a while.
Right.
And then I kind of forgot about it.
Nice. Yeah. So how does it work in Vim? You're using Vim locally?
You have to have that file from Komodo.
Oh, okay. Maybe I did hear about that, but I never.
Vim plugin.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah.
do some research and
Yeah.
post that to the list for anybody
Yeah.
who wants to try it in Vim.
Yeah, that'd
So
be cool.
basically do almost everything you said to do,
But
but
you
just do this
have-
extra thing in Vim. And it's
Nice.
supposed to, and I did get it working at one point. I don't know if it still works, but
cool.
this was like a year or two ago.
Nice. Yeah. No, that's cool.
Although I think you make a good point to just have that as your debugger rather
Right.
than an editor.
Yeah. Yeah.
This way, it's probably easier.
Yeah, it's nice, and just the way that you know, there's like just the way you can do all this stuff, like clicking around to see the different stuff I found was nice.
You
It's
can do that in Vim as
yeah.
well. Of course, it's not as nice.
But yeah.
It's all
Yeah, but like Vim has all those features like you know what I mean, expanding text and stuff. It's just so yeah, no, especially if you really like Vim, could be good. I mean, I do too. I did up until 2 years ago or something when I started using Sublime. But yeah, cool. Any other
What would
Random.
happen if you had access module, like you're developing access module in C, and Komodo switch between the source files for the Perl that calls the access module and the C module, the C for the access? That'd be very cool.
yeah?
My
I have a
guess is it's going to do the same thing, whatever the Perl debugger would do in that
Oh, okay,
circumstance,
yeah. Which is I don't even know. I've never tried to do that. That's a good question though. Yeah, it'll probably like explode. I know it does weird things sometimes. Like yeah, it does weird. Yeah, exactly. Boom.
program exploding.
Yeah, exactly. No, but you can discover funky things like in this presentation builder thing. So this NOV 14.pl is just for November 2014, and it just obviously makes presentation builder object calls it. But you can see some of the weird doings of Moose in here. Let me see, and of course I'm using like even weirder stuff because, but like Moose X declare is really weird. Anyway, here you go. So yeah, it opened, like you can just see the weird, it's got package eval closure sandbox number 571. Like I have no idea what the hell that means, okay? It's like it's something that's happening. And here, I almost forgot. Another cool thing, well in this case it doesn't look that, but it shows you like your call stack. So, you can see where you are and where it was called from. And like I said, I think all this eval stuff has something to do with how MooseX how Moose or MooseX declare or something works. Let me see. Step out of. Let's see if we can find any more of those really weird. Oh yeah, here we go. There's another one. So it's kind of cool. It's like stuff that you might never find just looking through source code. Like here we go, another one of these evals. So, one of the things that's fun about using Moose and MooseX declare and weird advanced things is they're advanced and they're cool, but they're also like harder to debug. Like when you see stuff like this, you're like, usually it just works though. I mean, usually it's written pretty well, this stuff in Moose, so you can kind of skip over really weird looking stuff like this, where it's just doing stuff like I think all it's doing is getting that self data. That's like what actually happens inside when it gets the data. But yeah, anyway. Oh yeah, here's the call stack, which is a little bit more useful. So it's kind of cool because you can jump around for like where you to see what the steps were to get where you are, which can be pretty useful when this is like 10 things long. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's very
Thank
cool.
you. All right. All right. And now it's over. Thank God.